This man was shot and killed by his dog. Joseph Smith was a 30-year-old hunter known for his love of the outdoors. Early one January morning in 2023, he set out on what was supposed to be an ordinary hunting trip. Joseph and his trusted dog rode together in his pickup truck, and in the back seat, his hunting rifle sat loaded and ready. An oversight that would soon turn this peaceful morning into a nightmare. His dog, playful and restless, moved among the gear, and then, in a split second, tragedy struck. The dog's paw landed on the trigger. A deafening sound echoed through the truck as the rifle fired, sending a fatal shot into Joseph's back. The truck rolled to a stop, and the scene inside was a picture of absolute horror. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but it was too late. Joseph Smith, a young man with so much life ahead of him, was gone. This wasn't just a freak accident. It was a chilling reminder of how a single moment of carelessness with firearms can lead to an unimaginable loss. A loaded rifle, unsecured in the back seat, had turned a man's best friend into a killer. The dog, oblivious to what had happened, remained by his owner's side, loyal as ever. But the scars left by this tragic mistake will haunt everyone who knew Joseph. What should have been another day in the great outdoors became a chilling warning. Firearms demand respect, and one moment of inattention can shatter lives forever. If you guys want to see more animations like this, then go subscribe to my YouTube channel, SK22 Animations. Go over and hit that subscribe button just in case TikTok gets banned.
In 2015, a woman was sitting in her living room when she heard gunshots from nearby. Shocked, she peeked through her window, but saw nothing unusual outside. Realizing the sound might have come from her neighbor's home, she decided to check on them. When no one answered the door, her worry deepened and she called the police. Soon after, officers arrived and were forced to break down the door. Inside, they were met with a tragic scene. An older couple lying lifeless on the floor. However, by some miracle, the officers noted faint breathing coming from the woman. She was rushed to the hospital, where she later survived and was questioned about what had happened. When investigators spoke to her, the woman claimed she couldn't remember anything from that night. Initially, the police believed a third party was involved and continued their investigation. A few days later, the couple's parrot, which had been sent to an animal rescue shelter, began mimicking an unsettling phrase, "Don't shoot!" The employees, finding this behavior strange, reported it to the investigators. This revelation shifted the focus back to the surviving woman. Ballistic analysis later confirmed that the shots fired came from within the home, and all evidence pointed to her as the shooter. Glenna Durham was eventually found guilty of murdering her husband and attempting to take her own life. In 2017, she was sentenced to life in prison without parole.
This man overdosed on carrots. Basil Brown was a man ahead of his time, an English health enthusiast who believed the key to longevity was in what you consumed. But his obsession with a so-called superfood led to an unusual and horrifying death. In the 1970s, Basil Brown was captivated by the health benefits of carrot juice. He drank it religiously, convinced it could cleanse his body and fortify his soul. But Basil wasn't just sipping on a glass or two, he was consuming up to 10 gallons a week. As days turned into weeks, Basil's friends and family noticed something alarming. His skin began to change, turning a strange, almost glowing orange color. Basil's excessive carrot juice intake caused hypovitamosis A, a rare and dangerous condition. Vitamin A in large doses is toxic. It overwhelms the liver, leading to severe damage and even failure. But Basil dismissed the warnings, believing he was on path to perfect health. One day, after weeks of relentless consumption, Basil fell ill. Nausea, dizziness, and abdominal pain overwhelmed him. His liver could no longer cope, and the toxicity spread through his body like poison. When help finally arrived, it was too late. Basil was found lifeless, his body a chilling reminder of the extremes he had pushed it to. An autopsy confirmed the cause of death, acute liver damage caused by a toxic overdose of vitamin A.
In 2016, a girl started up her computer and opened the Tor browser. Her plan was spine-chilling, yet simple. She was going to contract a hitman from the dark web. She was browsing for hours and finally stumbled across a site named Besa Mafia. They claimed to provide professionally trained hitmen in return for Bitcoin. On Valentine's Day, she sends an anonymous email to them using the username DogDayGod. In it, she discussed her intended victim, Amy Alwan. She told them, "That bitch has torn my family apart by sleeping with my husband, who then left me, and is stealing clients from my business." She then sent a picture of Amy and completed the transaction by sending $6,000 in Bitcoin. The only problem was that the girl who was looking to contract the hitman who went by the alias Dog Day God, was actually no girl at all. She was really Stephen Allwine, the husband of the intended victim. Stephen set up this elaborate backstory and posed as a jealous woman in an effort to conceal his identity, and for a while it worked perfectly. However, his plan would fall apart a few months later when an FBI agent knocked on their front door. He sat the couple down and stated that someone was trying to kill Amy. Apparently, an anonymous source on the dark web sent all of the Besa Mafia emails to the FBI. However, due to Stephen's elaborate planning, he wasn't considered a suspect at this time since the FBI believed it was actually a woman who attempted the hiring. So after this botched attempt at murdering his wife, Stephen could have quit and simply divorced her. However, he decided to take an alternate route. Roughly 10 months after Stephen emailed Besa Mafia, he called 911. He told them that his wife had shot herself and he needed help right away. But when the police arrived, they noticed several red flags. For example, Amy was holding the weapon in her left hand, even though she was right-handed. She also had no powder burns on her hands or head, and there were indications that the scene had been cleaned and repositioned before their arrival. In the end, physical and digital evidence proved that Stephen was behind everything, and he was convicted of first-degree murder.
You have to hear this. A Marine says that he was saved by an angel after a 13-foot-tall demon tried to drag him to hell. Sean said that when he was in the Marines, him and his buddies were joking around in the barracks with an old noose that was hanging from a rafter. They were pretending to hang Sean for fun. The noose got tightened, but Sean's Marine friends were joking around so much that they didn't even notice Sean could no longer breathe. Moments later, Sean said that his spirit left his body and he found himself in a dark, endless void. He said that suddenly a massive, terrifying demon grabbed him and started dragging him to what he thinks was hell. He said that he felt powerless and lost all hope, but just as despair consumed him, a pinprick of light appeared, quickly rushing toward him. He said that it was an angel glowing with incredible beauty and strength. The angel then struck the demon and freed Sean from its grasp. The angel, introducing himself as Archangel Michael, spoke to Sean in an otherworldly, powerful voice, reminding him of the importance of living a life devoted to God. Sean said that he was instantly returned to his body, alive and shaken. His friends had gotten him out of the noose and had been trying to revive him. Sean said that from that moment on, he resolved to live a life with faith and purpose.
Picture this, you're in the middle of the woods, rural Appalachia. You open your window because you hear sounds, and you see this thing floating above you. Let me play the video, let me know what you think. As soon as the eye started glowing, I would have been out. And I don't mean like running, I mean my soul would have left my body. I know throughout history there have been scattered reports of like a levitating woman. Usually it's reported in places like rural Appalachia or like South America. But maybe it's just late at night and people are mistaking it for some sort of big bird or something like that. Regardless, this video is terrifying and I never want to see this in my whole life. Let me know what you guys would do if you saw this thing floating by your window. And obviously with the quality of the video, it's fake. I just like to show horror stuff, you know? Chill, I know it's fake. And as always, these videos are for informational or entertainment purposes only.
What started out as a fun country music festival would descend into complete horror. It will be remembered as one of the deadliest mass shootings in US history. This will obviously be me telling the shorter summary of the case, but if you want a real deep dive, head over to the Bourne Investigation. On the 1st of October 2017, a music festival was underway called the Route 91 Harvest Festival. As Jason Aldean was finishing his set at around 10:05 p.m, gunfire could be heard. Bullets sprayed the crowd and around 22,000 people started running for their lives. Those caught up in the horrors on the ground had no idea that they were being fired at from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel. The shooter was 64-year-old Stephen Paddock. Stephen was born in Clinton in Iowa and had a bank robber as a father. Stephen ended up working at several jobs but making quite a lot of money in real estate, and he became a Vegas regular. He was reportedly living with his girlfriend Marilu Danley, and he'd been married and divorced twice before. His girlfriend was a hostess at a casino, and she and Stephen actually stayed at the Mandalay Bay Hotel shortly before the tragedy. She told police how he seemed to be kind of acting odd and scoping the place out from different angles from different windows, but she hadn't thought much of it at the time. Now, his girlfriend was actually away in the Philippines at the time of the attacks, and Stephen had reportedly sent her quite a lot of money to go and buy a house over there. Some wonder whether he sent her over there to keep her away from him so she didn't spoil his plans. On the 25th of September, he checked into his suite at the Mandalay Bay Hotel. Over the next few days, he managed to bring over 10 suitcases into his suite via bellboys in the hotel. Housekeepers visited his suite numerous times and noticed nothing amiss. Stephen actually, it would transpire later on, had a number of disturbing Google searches. He'd looked up weapons and ballistic charts, and he'd set up 23 weapons inside his hotel room. Stephen then also set up cameras which could have helped him keep a lookout for people coming up to the room. On the evening of the attack at roughly 9:30, Stephen deadbolted the door to his room. At roughly 10 p.m, a security guard made his way upstairs to investigate a door alert on Stephen's floor. At 10:05, Stephen smashed out 2 windows of his suite with a hammer. He then opened fire on the 22,000 people below. Now, at first, people actually mistakenly thought that it was just fireworks. As police raced to Stephen's suite, he showered bullets onto the crowd before firing through the suite door, hitting a security guard in the leg. Over an hour since the first gunfire, the SWAT team used an explosive to enter the room. They found Stephen deceased on the floor from a self-inflicted wound. 60 people were killed in the tragedy and 867 wounded. Obviously, not to mention the countless amount of people completely traumatized by everything that they saw on that night. No motive has ever been determined. Following the tragedy, bump stocks were actually banned, but then the Supreme Court overruled the ban. So just to be clear, they want to ban an app, which is basically just people sharing videos, but they're happy to overrule a ban on a device that would convert a semi-automatic rifle into a machine gun. Like I said, if you are a US viewer and potentially not going to be able to see my content anymore, you can find me on The Bourne Investigation.
This 17-year-old girl became a killer so she could be with her 33-year-old boyfriend. This case takes us to Toledo, Ohio, right outside of Cleveland. 53-year-old Nicole Jones was living a pretty normal life, except for the fact that her adult son was living with her and he was getting himself in a bit of trouble. Nicole's 33-year-old son, Jonathan, was a veteran. He served in Afghanistan and afterwards he was diagnosed with PTSD. At the time, he wasn't working. He couldn't hold down a job at all. He had multiple children with different women, but wasn't financially supporting them because he didn't have a job. So Jonathan is living at his mom's house and he's really not doing anything. He spends a lot of time playing video games or going online, specifically on dating websites. And it was on a dating website that 33-year-old Jonathan began a relationship with a 17-year-old girl named Caitlin Coons. Now, Caitlin is a very troubled girl. Her parents were neglectful, abusive, they had substance issues. So at a very young age, Caitlin was removed from their care and put into the foster system. And she was still in foster care at 17 years old when she met and began dating 33-year-old Jonathan. Jonathan was arrested because of this relationship he was having with Caitlin because obviously it's illegal and he's a predator. Jonathan pled guilty to these charges and he was released with an ankle monitor, but he had a sentencing hearing scheduled for May 4th, 2023. But Jonathan never showed up for this hearing, so he's missing, probably on the run. But the very next day, May 5th, Jonathan's mother, Nicole, was reported missing. No one had heard or spoken to Jonathan's mother, Nicole, in weeks. They went to her home, she wasn't there, and her car was also missing. The police go to Caitlin's foster home thinking that maybe she knows where her boyfriend and her boyfriend's mom are, but they found out that 17-year-old Caitlin was missing as well, and no one had seen her in over 2 weeks. So in case any of you guys are lost, let me break this down real quick. You have this teenage girl that's missing. Her 33-year-old predator boyfriend is missing, as well as his mother. She's missing as well, and his mother's car. So as the police are trying to piece together what the hell is going on here, the police are notified that 17-year-old Caitlin had texted her caseworker that she had killed 2 people and burned down a house and was on the run. At first, the police were thinking that Caitlin was possibly kidnapped by her predator boyfriend, but now they're thinking, did she kill her boyfriend and her boyfriend's mom? A few days later, Nicole's car was seen crossing the Mexico border, and a few days after that, Caitlin and Jonathan were arrested in Mexico. They were in possession of substances and were trying to sell Nicole's jewelry on the side of the road. Originally, Jonathan and Caitlin both claimed that they had no idea that Jonathan's mom, Nicole, was even missing, and that Nicole had given them her car and all of her jewelry so they could run off to Mexico and be together. And when Caitlin was confronted with that text that she sent to her caseworker, she said that she never sent that text, and most likely her ex-boyfriend had hacked her phone and sent the text that she killed people because he worked for the dark web. After 4 hours of interrogation, Caitlin finally cracked and confessed everything. Nicole said that her 33-year-old boyfriend's mother, Nicole, did not approve of their relationship because why would she? And Nicole was trying to get Jonathan to break up with Caitlin. So in the middle of the night on April 18th, 2023, Caitlin snuck in through Jonathan's bedroom window and she gave her 33-year-old predator boyfriend an ultimatum. She said, "You have 5 hours to kill your mom or I'm going to break up with you." Caitlin then spent the next 5 hours trying to convince Jonathan to kill his mom. But after those 5 hours were up, Jonathan said, "I can't do that. I don't want to kill my mom. Like, that's my mom. I love her." So Jonathan expected Caitlin to just break up with him. But instead, Caitlin, who's only 17 years old, just gets up and says, "Fine, then I'll do it." At this point, it's morning. Nicole has no idea that Caitlin is even in her house. Nicole's in the kitchen just trying to start her day when Caitlin sneaks up behind her and strangles her. And afterwards, Caitlin showed Jonathan his mother's body, and allegedly he was so upset he began to get sick. But I guess he wasn't upset enough because afterwards he put his mother's body in the trunk of her own car, drove it to some random apartment complex dumpster, and then put his mother's body in a dumpster so it would just end up at the landfill. As for that text message that Caitlin sent to her caseworker where she said that she killed 2 people, allegedly, Caitlin confessed to being a part of a drive-by shooting when she was 15 years old, but I couldn't find too much information on that. Caitlin and Jonathan both pled no contest and were sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 25 years. This all happened not too long ago. This case is pretty recent. It was from 2023, and it's 2025 now, so almost 2 entire years since Nicole Jones was murdered, and to this day, Nicole Jones's body has never been found. And if you watched to the end of this video, thank you so much. You guys are truly the best audience, which is why I'll be so devastated if I don't have you guys a week from now. So go check me out everywhere else. Go check me out on YT and everywhere else I'm gonna be. Go do that right now. Okay, I will see you guys next time. Love you. Bye.